greetings. On behalf of W4W Foundation, welcome to another session of Friday Waters. The idea of Friday Waters is to wet the Fridays with fun and yet get fruitful content for the better understanding about water matters in different possible ways. Friday Water has water talkies, book reading, thesis club, water arts, and meet a maestro, each of which happens once a month depending on the availability of the speakers. The focus of Friday Water's Reading Club session is to engage with authors who have written books, novels, comics, etc. on the water matters in order to discuss with them the making of the book, the novel, comic, etc., and the issues around the subject they have covered in the manuscript. Besides bringing interest in water conversation, the session will also increase the outreach of the manuscript in the water networks as well as society at large. My name is Mansi Bal Bhargav, and today I shall be the discussion as well as the moderator of the session, and we will discuss the book, namely The Heads and Tails of Ganga. And to do the honor, we have Radhika Muley Chaitrali Kulkarni, and we also had in proposal Professor Vijay Paranjpye, who is unfortunately unable to join today because he had to be rushed to hospital last night. So we will pray for his well-being as well as that he gets well soon and is able to discuss the book to as many people as possible. But for now, we will proceed with the book discussion. The book is published by Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage, which is INTAC, Delhi. And before I provide the basic details of the book, The Heads and Tails of Ganga, first, let me just introduce our current speakers who are going to speak here. And I learned that there are other people who have contributed to the book who are also around, and we'll get you on board and request you to make a brief introduction of yours. First, Radhika Muley holds an MSc in Water Science, Policy and Management from the University of Oxford. Since 2015, she has worked on various environmental and water-related research endeavors with Aquadam, Kalpvriksh, and Gomukh, and is currently based at the Center for Water Research at IISER Pune, along with being a co-author of the book, The Heads and Tails of Ganga. She is currently exploring her research interest in the hydrosocial dynamics of river islands in the Mula-Mutha River Basin and conducting a water audit of the IISER campus as a tool to improve water efficiency within urban environments for sustainable water governance. Recently, she was part of the multi-scale integrated river basin management in the Hindu Kush Himalaya program organized by IKIMOD Nepal. We have our second co-author and speaker today, Chaitrali Kulkarni. She holds a master's in environmental science as a research fellow of Joke Waller Hunter Initiative, both ends, the Netherlands. She has completed her postgraduate diploma in environmental law and policy from National Law University, Delhi. Since 2013, she has worked on various research projects such as protection and conservation of sacred groves, watershed management in and around Pune district, rainwater harvesting, and projects related to resilience and climate change impacts. She was selected as a member of dedicated committee for finalizing integrated development and management plan of Godavari River Basin with Government of Maharashtra. She's currently working on the Agrani River Basin in Sangli district of Maharashtra. Since Vijay sir is not around, I just want to still acknowledge his acceptance to this invitation and contribution to the book, and would like to get on record with his biography. He has taught economics and environmental science at the Nes Wadia College of University of Pune. His principal area of research many river basins across the country, and he's quite well known in the sector, by the way, and water sector. He has also traveled to several countries for river and water related assignments. He has been an avid mountaineer and trekker, and he is part of the directorial committee of Gomukh Trust, Parisar Gangotri, and Blue Cross Animal Welfare Society of Pune. So with this, I would like to first of all thank Radhika and Chaitrali to agree to do this session, and also agree to share their insights and learning from making of the book. And of course, the site itself, the project is quite profound by its name, and it sounds quite interesting. So I would like to invite both of you first with a brief remark on your idea of making the book. Now, how did you decide? कैसे लगा कि हाँ ये book बनाना चाहिए? Because I think it's the title itself is quite interesting. So maybe we start with Radhika, you first, and then I'm aware that you have a presentation. We can later go on to the presentation. But just very quick remark on your making of the book.
I think Chaitrali
Go
would
ahead,
like
Radhika.
to start. Yeah,
Okay,
Chaitrali.
Chaitrali, please go ahead.
Thank you for inviting me to this platform. I will give a brief background of how I have been involved in the project and the process of working on the book. After completing my master's in environmental science, I took up this job as a researcher with GOMUK since the trust work primarily on watershed management, nature conservation, and river basin analysis. In the year 2018, we submitted our report on integrated development and management plan of Godavari Basin, which was the part of State Water Plan, wherein we have carried out thorough assessment of Godavari River, considering its hydrology, geology, import-export of water, tourism, agriculture, water balance study, impact of climate change, etc. So we were thinking of a big canvas. This I would say one of the reasons to study the Ganga. During one of Professor Paranjpye's visit to Delhi for India River Week, an opportunity arose where there was a possibility of taking a project on Ganga River. I volunteered and pushed for this project since it suited my academic background as well as my passion for trekking and mountaineering. For me, this was a great opportunity for doing what I wanted to do for so long. Then the Mami Gange program was launched in the year 2014. Since then, the huge budgetary allocations were made to clean up the Ganga. We were keen to know what exactly changed after the launch of this program. Therefore, to study the entire Ganga basin from its origin to the delta, we approached Mr. Manu Bhatnagar, director in TAC. Our study commenced in the year May 2019 when we undertook a field visit to Gangotri, Gomukh, and areas beyond Gomukh. Similarly, we started searching for literature available on Ganga and found huge amount of important but scattered data on various subjects like biodiversity, pollution, hydropower projects, natural and man-made disasters, Ganga Delta, which was collected by various institutions, experts, and research scholars. While going through this literature, we realized that inclusion and understanding of cryosphere of Nepal is equally important, as about 42% of water in the Ganga River comes from rivers originating in the cryosphere of the Nepal Himalayas. Therefore, in November 2019, we undertook another field trip to Upper Bhutekoshi River in Nepal. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted our work, but we continued our study relying on the huge data available from various sources and institutions like the Zoological Survey of India, Geological Survey of India, Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology, EC-MODE, International Water Management Institute, IMD. Then actual work of collating, interconnecting, and data analysis began. And if we look at the table of the content of the book, you can see 13 different chapters, but these all are interconnected and interlinked with each other. And if one wishes to actually understand the Ganga from its origin to the delta, one should go through the book from start to finish. Even though the book does not claim, even though the book does not claim to be exhaustive, it deals with practically all important and critical aspects of the Ganga River Basin. I'm sure that reading the book will change your perspective towards looking at River Ganga and give you a vision about how to analyze any river, covering all its socio-political, geological, historical, hydrological, and cultural aspects.
Wonderful. You already laid out a very passionate, connection with the project as well as with Ganga with this opening remark. I invite Radhika to give her opening remark and also probably continue with your presentation with the opening remark. That will be wonderful. Over to you, Radhika. And once again, welcome back to our platform. You have been a speaker in the past, more in the water arts, as a solo speaker, and it's good to have you back as an author on this platform. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mansi, for having us over and for giving us this space to speak so briefly and also in detail about the book. My research interest in this book is quite similar to what Chaitrali mentioned about trying to understand a bigger canvas, considering that Ganga is a very dynamic river and also one of the major rivers within Indian subcontinent. So understanding Ganga becomes very crucial, I think, for any student of rivers and water management. From that perspective, I started working on this project. At this point, I would also like to answer a question which is often asked to us: why did you feel like writing another book on Ganga? There are so many books, right?
Yes,
So
I had that question for you. Good, you go ahead and answer.
yeah, so I think the best way to answer that would be through the presentations, because that's one of the key features of our book, that we speak about a lot of facts and data and research through maps and images. So therefore, we would like to take you through the glimpse of these maps and images. Uh, okay. So is this visible?
Yes, visible. Please
Okay.
put it
So
on.
So this is the cover page of the book. As you can see, the heads, the cryosphere, and the tails, the delta. And we have listed down 13 chapters uh, throughout. And if you look briefly at just the table of contents, you'll see that the first 6 chapters, first 5 to 6 chapters, are speaking about how the geology, the hydrology of the Himalayan region is actually has a lot of impact on the Ganga River system. And after which, from chapter 6 to 7 onwards, we start speaking about how human beings and human settlements are having impact on the river basin, and therefore on also the tails of Ganga. So that's how we structured the book, so to speak about different ideas. And at this point, we'll also like to say that we went through a lot of reports, as Chaitrali mentioned, lot of data, reports, journal articles, books. However, we realized that many of these books and reports cater to very specific audience. They only speak to scientists, they only speak to researchers, they are only speaking to um, students of water management. So our effort in this book has been to make this book reader friendly, so that people of different interests and different backgrounds can easily go through the book and understand the key findings. Uh, so to take you briefly through some of the key findings, uh, this is one of the most important maps of Ganga basin, which we find in our river atlas, the India River Atlas. And as you can see, we have Ganga originating from Uttarakhand and flowing into Bay of Bengal near Kolkata. And this also goes on to say that therefore we claim Ganga to be the national river of India. However, when we started doing our research, we decided to go back into the history to understand how Ganga River Basin was also formed, geologically and hydrologically formed. And one of the key important factors or events was the Yamuna River avulsion. As many people know, Yamuna River was earlier part of the Indus Valley Basin and was flowing into Arabian Sea. However, due to tectonic shifts and geological activity, around 5,000 years ago, Yamuna River shifted her course and came and joined Ganga River's system at Allahabad, today we know as Prayagraj. With this, we now have the map, the basin map, with along with tributaries of Ganga River basin. So we have the right bank tributaries as well as the left bank tributaries. But if we look closely, we'll realize that in this map we are forgetting the left bank tributaries, which have their origin in Nepal and also in some part of Tibet Autonomous Region, China. And this is the region which Chaitrali mentioned in her introduction, which contributes approximately 42% of water into the main Ganga River basin. And this entire region of Nepal forms, therefore, the headwaters of Ganga. Therefore, from Yamunotri to Kanchenjunga mountain range, which lies between the boundaries of Indian territory, we have titled the entire region in this region as the heads of Ganga, because water from all of these mountainous regions come and flow into Ganga River basin and form approximately 42% of the main stem Ganga. This headwaters are located in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. which is also famously called the third pole. So after the North Pole and the South Pole, we have the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, which forms the third pole because it's the third largest freshwater storehouse on planet Earth. And we also see that we have 10 major rivers originating from this third pole, which flow into different continents, Eurasia, China, Indian subcontinent. Now, coming to cryosphere and why cryosphere becomes important is some of the components of cryosphere are glaciers, glacial lakes, permafrost, snow, and ice. Around 54,000 glaciers are located in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, out of which around 6,237 glaciers are located in the Ganga River Basin alone. And this map briefly speaks about how glaciers also have their tributaries. So a big glacier like Gangotri is formed by minor small glacial tributaries. As we can see over here, we have Raktavarna, Chaturangi, Kirti, and all these different glaciers flow together and form the larger glacier, from which then we have rivers originating. Now, along with glaciers, we also have glacial lakes. We have a brief table over here from the book which speaks about different number of glacial lakes which we find in different sub-tributaries of Ganga, which is Gandaki, Karnali River, Saptakoshi River, Mahakali River, the Upper Ganga catchment, and Yamuna River. So all of these sub-tributaries come together and form the headwaters. Now, this cryosphere, why do we need to speak about this cryosphere and why is it so important? Because it forms the significant contributor to the hydrological budget of Ganga River Basin. As we mentioned, that it's the largest storehouse of fresh water in Asia, and also therefore the snow melt, the ice melt, and the glacial melt from this cryosphere forms approximately 9 to 10% of Ganga water's annual flow, approximately 19 to 20% in Brahmaputra, and almost 50% in Indus River Basin. However, when we are dealing with Ganga River Basin, when we are thinking of plans and projects, we very often fail to take this water budget into account. And how this water budget also becomes important is because during summer season, when there is no rainfall, when there is very less snowfall, this is the storehouse of fresh water, which helps in maintaining the minimum environmental flows in the river streams, especially in lean flow periods, and therefore helps in regulating the climate and hydrological cycle of Ganga River Basin. Along with contributing water to the Ganga River Basin, another major factor or contribution of the cryosphere is bacteriophages. So bacteriophages are basically bacteria eaters who claim and therefore who claim to have self-cleansing properties. So it is from this cryosphere that we see the sources of bacteriophages flowing into the river stem of Ganga River Basin, which gives it the self-cleansing property. And we also know these bacteriophages in different terminologies like the Brahmadravya and various other contexts where we see that bacteriophages are being discussed. So cryosphere also becomes a very crucial, important source for these bacteriophages. Now, when we look at this entire heads of Ganga from the point of view of climate change, it needs to be considered with utmost attention that the Himalayas are warming at a very faster rate than the rest of the Indian landmass. And therefore, apart from a few exceptions like the Karakoram anomaly, glacial retreat in some glaciers is almost negligible, but in some glaciers, it's extremely advanced. And we see that some of the glaciers are receding at a very faster rate over a period of time, especially in the last few years. Now, this will have considerable impact on the main stem of Ganga, which flows in the Indian territory and also in Bangladesh, which we'll come to later. So if we lose this glacial melt at a very rapid rate because of global warming and climate change, we are going to see rapid excessive flooding events.
Radhika?
Yes?
Yeah, sorry, I was not hearing you for just 15 seconds. Go
Okay.
ahead, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. So we are going to see a lot of flooding due to rapid glacial melt. We are also going to see a lot of debris flow, which are going to affect all our hydropower plants and different canals and projects that we have. And we also need to consider that this will have a huge impact on the biodiversity. As we mentioned, cryosphere has an impact on the lean flow periods, so which will directly have an impact on biodiversity and also the communities who depend on this lean flows. And therefore, from all of these point of view, considering the heads of Ganga becomes very crucial when we need to discuss how we are going to manage Ganga within Indian territory and afterwards also. And just a few beautiful images of what biodiversity we are speaking about when we speak about cryosphere and and the different kinds of species which exist over there, which we do not find elsewhere in other river basins. Now coming to tails, why the tails become important is we found this very beautiful map which we had to show, in which we'll find that at the tails, at towards the end, near the Bay of Bengal, Ganga and Brahmaputra are flowing as two different river systems into Bay of Bengal. And this map made us think about what would have happened for the changes in the river stem. So to which we started understanding the twist in the tails. That's how we have titled this entire section, where we speak about Ganga River Avulsion. So like we have Yamuna River Avulsion, we also have Ganga River Avulsion, where we see Ganga River shifting her course towards the east. And it is studied that a major earthquake in 1505 led to Ganga migrating towards east, and then continued this migration over a period of time over the last 300 years. Major factors being the tidal forces in the Bay of Bengal, heavy amounts of sediment deposition, siltation, therefore leading to siltation, and tectonic plates, which are very active in this region. So various forces acting in this region are causing the shift in the tails. This is again a very beautiful and interesting map which speaks about how Ganga and Brahmaputra merged, came together. As you can see in the first map, the Teesta River was earlier part of the Ganga River Basin. But in 1991, we see the map showing Teesta River going and joining Brahmaputra, and Brahmaputra changing his course and joining Ganga together. And therefore, today we come to the Ganga, Brahmaputra, and Meghna river system together. And this river avulsions are still happening in the Ganga River Basin, which is all very famously known as the Kosi Mega Fan, where we see that the Kosi River very periodically and very often constantly shifts her course due to heavy sediment deposition, which she carries from the 7 tributaries in Nepal and starts depositing them in the Indian plains. So as we see that there are river avulsions happening in the Ganga River Basin, in the upper parts, in the middle stream, in the Kosi River Basin, and also in the lower parts. This is again an image to show how in the Delta region, the rivers are constantly realigning themselves, shifting their courses and changing, forming new rivers and tributaries. And therefore that gives us the image, the entire image of the Delta region. So how we have the tails, how we spoke about the heads of Ganga, we now come to the tails of Ganga, which is the Delta region, where we also have the Sundarbans. So this map shows how 40% of Sundarbans is within the Indian territory, but 60% of Sundarbans is actually in Bangladesh. So once again, when we start speaking about Ganga, how we also need to speak about Bangladesh as a very important riparian state and a riparian country while we are dealing with Ganga. And just to also briefly speak about the biodiversity in the Delta region, which we have covered in our book, just to give few glimpses. And therefore, now we come to the complete picture of Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna River Basin, which is shown in this diagram. And coming to a table which highlights how therefore Ganga River Basin does not just remain a national river of India, but actually becomes a transboundary river, which is supported by waters from India, Nepal, Bangladesh, as well as Tibet Autonomous Region of China. And this led us to speaking about how the heads and tails of Ganga become very crucial if we want to discuss the major issues of pollution and hydropower projects and all these issues that are very popularly discussed on very many platforms. Now, this lens of the heads and tails also brought us to a very interesting discussion about differences in the length of the river, and we came across these four different figures in different books and reports. So, if we look at the Ganga from her origin in Uttarakhand and the mouth at Kolkata harbor, according to the maps which we have, the length is 2525 kilometer. But if we look at Ganga's tails in the Bhola Sagar Island in Bangladesh, which is what the hydrology is showing us, the length of the river goes on to be 2616 kilometer. So this is this figure is just to show how we conducted our research and came to this conclusion, where we used a remote sensing device to measure Ganga's length from Farakka barrage and into Bangladesh, where the river is known as Padma River, and up to Bhola Sagar Island, which therefore in our book we have considered that the length of Ganga River is not 2525 kilometers, but actually 2616 kilometer. So this is just an example to say that how when we start looking at Ganga River from a very larger lens of Ganga Brahmaputra-Meghana River Basin, we'll also have to start shifting the hydrological terms and the hydrological definitions of how we are looking at the river system. And this is just a line diagram of Ganga River Basin when we consider all of these interstate tributaries and boundaries, and just to show how dynamic and vibrant the river is from the heads to the tails. Now, while we are speaking about the hydrology and the geology and the river avulsions, we have also looked at the human settlements in the heads and the tails, where chapter number 7 speaks about the migrating tribes in the cryosphere, the Khasha, the Bhotia tribes, and other various tribes which are who are constantly migrating and are creating a very interesting socio-cultural dynamics in the cryosphere region. And we are also speaking about the settlements in the delta, where we see that the most rapid settlement actually took place post the colonial period because of indigo plantation, indigo factory, and also because of trade routes, where Kolkata Diamond Harbour was one of the crucial points, and therefore which led to populating the delta region. Now, while we spoke about the human settlements in these regions, we have also dealt with the disasters, where we have made a very clear distinction between natural phenomena such as earthquake and man-made disasters such as um, the glacial lake outburst, which are natural phenomena but become man-made disasters due to improper construction of dams or barrages and canals, as we can see in these few maps over here. So according to our estimation, when the book was being written, we have come down to an estimation that Ganga River Basin has approximately 1,547 structures within the entire river basin, and therefore to speak about how we are looking at different human interventions on the river, apart from covering the ideas of tourism and road and transportation, etc. We also have looked at the issue of e-flows and interlinking of rivers in chapter number 9, where this is just an image where we are showing how the environmental flows in the Ganga River Basin changed drastically after Farakka Barrage, which is as Murshidabad. So therefore, after Farakka Barrage, when river Ganga flows into Bangladesh, where the river is known as Padma, we see that in the tail ends region, there are a lot of issues related to sedimentation and pollution because of less water discharge. Along with it, there is also an aspect which we have covered in the book, where we speak about how there is this um, concept that we have that delta is surplus with water. But we also see episodes of droughts in the delta region, which are very often overlooked or not discussed. So covering these broad aspects, we then come towards how different countries are dealing with this transboundary nature of our river systems, where there's just a few list of treaties that we have tried to analyze and understand between India and Nepal. Interestingly, we have approximately 54 transboundary rivers between India and Bangladesh, but we still only have one treaty, which is the Ganga Water Sharing Treaty, which is also known as Faraka Treaty. This is to say the level of integrated understanding or the transboundary cooperation which is needed but is lacking when we are speaking about Ganga management. This is another example of how we are also dealing with complex issues of boundaries and geopolitical issues. Just to give an example, this is an area between India and Nepal where we find the origin of Mahakali River. This region, known as Kalapani region, is actually claimed by India as well as Nepal, and therefore is a point of conflict between the two countries. So how these certain geopolitical issues can hinder our ability to cooperate over transboundary rivers is something that we have addressed in the 12th chapter, where we speak about multilateral cooperation on Ganga. And we also go on to proceed to give an example of the Kailash Sacred Landscape Conservation and Development Initiative, where we see that in spite of all of these geopolitical and economic dynamics, we see that Nepal, India, and China have come together to work and conserve this area where we see the origins of Indus, Satluj, Brahmaputra, Karnali, and therefore Ganga River Basin. So to speak about how there are instances of cooperation, there are instances of dialogue between countries, and these instances and dialogues could be nurtured if we start looking at our rivers from a broader lens and a transboundary lens. And therefore, while we speak about all of these different dynamics, hydrological, river avulsions, and the sedimentation, etc., our book also tries to bring into light two communities who are extremely marginalized and with climate change at the brink could be the most affected communities. One is the pastoral communities in the heads, in the cryosphere in the Himalayas, and the boat people in the tails. So with that, just concluding, we've tried to summarize our book with different images and maps which have helped us to gain a very brief overview of the river system. So that's it from us for now. Yeah.
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 Thank you so much, Radhika. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. And also, I must congratulate the entire team for the wonderful set of maps, especially telling us the relationship, because we hear those maps as stories, that Ganga, Yamuna, and also this Ganga, Yamuna, Tehzeeb, and all this kind of, because we have distanced ourselves and also because directly not related, we kind of see them as stories, but you beautifully explained to us today, but also it is very nicely articulated in the book there in terms of maps and also relating it with the other aspects of the river. And you also talk about, and the book also takes us through the journey of this cooperation within the water cooperation within the water conflict domains, and giving example of relationship of India and Nepal, India and Bangladesh, and how Bangladesh and India are still struggling to find out beyond one of the treaties, whereas Nepal, India, and including Nepal, China, India, there are some other things. What was very interesting for me when you started measuring the length of Ganga through the different lenses which have been already measured, and of course, then you produce these comparative figures in front of us. But beyond that, there was another interesting thing which you raised is the number of structures on the Ganga stretch. If I consider 2616 as the given stretch as of now, the hydrological stretch, which was really fascinating for me to see how human aspects of the water, and particularly the human aspiration were taming a mighty river like Ganga and other rivers for that matter, have been tried out time and again, especially post-industrial revolution. It has been a very, I will say, uh, a desperate move, whether it is for water supply or energy production or food, or in general for that matter. But there was another thing which was also very interesting, which you raised, which I will call as delta paradox. I mean, where here we see water surplus area, like water everywhere, but at the same time, water scarcity is at its prime. So I'm kind of summarizing it from my end to make it comprehensive, so that I can also pose some questions for you as well as the team, and I will also get Chaitrali on board to make sure that she answers some of the questions. And Chiranjeevi Bhattarai sir is also here, so maybe I will also invite him to join in some of the conversation. Maybe you can also introduce yourself briefly, and then we can take the conversation further. And I will request you to switch on your camera when you are on conversation. I pose my first question and then maybe take it further from here, and we'll keep it short today. There is something very interesting in chapter 10 where you are talking about how it has, I mean, about the Ganga cleanup. So I just want to know, how has it taken more than 45 years to clean up Ganga, and what is happening right now? Things might have changed in the last decade, but I'm also aware that last year there was a huge money again poured in, and I do remember 20 years ago there was another huge project.
You're on mute.
Sorry, I think my network was lost, but I hope you got the question. So please continue. Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm outside, so there is this issue. But if I get disconnected, just for next time, please continue, because Radhika, you automatically become the host of the event, so things can move. Okay,
Okay.
I will join you. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Before answering this question, I would also like to acknowledge Dr. Chiranjeevi Bhattarai's contribution, where I think it was one of my experience of cooperation and how data
Yes.
sharing could help in research, where
Yes.
he gave a very important input into how we defined the heads of Ganga. uh, from Tamor River, which is the sub-tributary of Saptakoshi. He was very instrumental in giving us valid and authentic information about how, therefore, Kanchenjunga mountain range becomes part of the headwaters of Ganga. So at this point, I would also like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Chiranjeevi ji for contributing to the book. So
Thank you, Radhika, for the acknowledgement. Thank you.
Yeah, I will come back. Now I know
Yes.
that a little bit about him. I will also invite him, but maybe we take the
answer.
question on pollution and then we get him on board for the next question. Maybe it's a good idea to talk about transboundary water, because so for that, I'm going to invite you separately also, because we
Okay.
Okay, or is there is a problem, I guess.
Yeah.
You suggested
Okay.
we continue, right? So
We'll continue. Okay.
that's what
Yeah,
you're
please.
Yeah. Okay. So, so to answer briefly her question about pollution of Ganga, and a question which is very often spoken about, uh, the Ganga Action Plan, which began in 1985, is still continuing in various phases, various forms. We see that there are different plans promulgating under different names, but ultimately we are all trying to understand how to solve the issue of Ganga. And in our book, we have tried to understand how this pollution of Ganga is not just related to lack of infrastructure or lack of STPs, but also related to how the existing structures are not functioning to the best of their capacities. There are the installed STPs which are there at the moment on the Ganga River system, as we know, are not fully operational. We are also aware that these were not built with long-term planning. where we have not considered the climate change issues. We have not considered flooding of STPs, which are right next to the river bank. So to say that another aspect which we have failed to understand is there are a lot of misconceptions and myths around Ganga being self-purifying river. So that's therefore when we spoke about Brahmadravya or the bacteriophages, what we fail to understand is that although there are bacteriophages in the river, these bacteriophages are also only going to deal with the bacteria. They are not going to deal with the chemicals and different effluents which are going into the river through different industrial processes and also through domestic water use. So this misconception about the pollution issue, along with inefficient infrastructure. Another aspect which we are also failing to understand is the pollution issue is largely only tackled at the major cities like Kanpur or Allahabad, now known as Prayagraj. But through our studies, we have also come across issues of pollution in the glaciers, where where studies are speaking about microbial pollution in various glaciers, where people are regularly visiting the glaciers, or we have increasing number of mountaineers and trekkers. So the pollution is not just from the city areas, but is also flowing from the heads itself. So although we have the 2016 notification which speaks about increasing the number of STPs and looking at Ganga River as from an eco systemic approach, we also probably also need to look at river from uh, a demand and supply approach, where could we have limited abstraction from the river, main river stem? Because the more we keep abstracting, we see the more water uh, getting polluted, right? Because we're talking about the demand and supply over here. We are also seeing that there is very less focus given on solutions such as optimal use of water, recycling of water. So while we are speaking about how to clean the existing issue of pollution, we also probably need to widen our scope and look at the other aspects of how we can deal with the pollution from a demand point of view. And also another aspect is that Ganga River, as we saw right now, flows through different states. Within India itself, there are 11 different states. And as we all know, water is a state subject. So each state has different laws, policies. Within these states, there are municipal corporations, there are gram panchayats, which again function at very different levels. So firstly, bringing all of these administrative boundaries under one coherent umbrella becomes very important when we are going to tackle an issue such as pollution, which is not limited to certain stretches, but is across the river, from the heads to the tails. So yeah, I think this is what we have tried to discuss in the chapter on pollution of Ganga. And I hope I've been able to answer the question.
Very interesting because, all the talk nowadays from spirituality, there's more discussion on the pollution and everyone is concerned. And interestingly, as people are part of the problem, the solution also has to come out of the people. And then on that, we are augmented with the climate change issues. I don't think there are easy answers to it, but yes, it's a serious concern among everyone in the country, whether it is a government body or every individual who reveres Ganga as mother and they connects it with it. So just curious, because every land and water has its holding capacity. And as we see, cities are bustling and bruising, going beyond the holding capacity. I feel rivers also have that situation where they are getting super exhausted. So I mean, just to understand, because this comes out quite clear in quite a few chapters in the book, and where you are also taking into consideration the average flows, and especially when we see that it's like angioplasty. It's not rightly the angioplasty. The dam is not literally the angioplasty. It's like a healthy river dammed many times, not like a unhealthy body angioplasted many times. Just to understand from any one of you, how do you see the exhaustion of the river? Probably Chiranjeevi sir can also join in here. And where do we stop exploiting river more as an infrastructure? Today itself, I was giving a talk in my teamwork with the French embassy on, we have to let the river be the river. And we have a saying in India, aviralta mein hi nirmalta hai. So let the river flow to let it remain clean. So maybe we start with Chiranjeevi sir, your take on the capacity of these natural resources, and where is the threshold of exhaustion? Please
Thank.
unmute yourself, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mansi ji, thank you so much for the introducing me dear, and then I would like to, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me for this program, and congratulate the authors who have done excellent work and have a comprehensive overview of the rivers Ganga from heads to tails. So it has covered most of the issues, including the transboundary issues between Nepal and India, uh, including Kalapani, the area
Yes.
where the Mahakali River, we call it Mahakali, and in India mostly Kali. So there are several issues with Nepal, between India and Nepal, and recently, what has been the mostly the challenges, the climate change, river pollutions, and bad developments. We call it bad developments. For some people, take it developments as infrastructure constructions are the developments. So we call those developments as bad developments across the rivers are the biggest challenges. And apart from the transboundary river issues and water issue sharing, that is the most contentious issue in Nepal. And uh, we need to find a way to manage these rivers and conserve, particularly for the perspective of the conserving rivers for the sake of this generation and the future generations to come. So for this book is instrumental. I believe it would be an instrumental tool to the policymakers and the other community and community workers and the academicians, and in overall, it would be a tool to advance the conservation efforts and management efforts in the Ganga heads to tails. It has covered all the aspects in a comprehensive way. So thank you so much for
Yes.
introducing
Thank
me
you.
and giving me a chance to speak few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I will resume the conversation. Chaitrali, do you want to add something here on the question? We are talking about the carrying capacity or the threshold of exhaustion. As a human also, we have that threshold. So I suppose every other being on this planet has a threshold. Urbanization itself has crossed its threshold. So over to you, Chaitrali.
I think we have already crossed our threshold of abstracting water from river, and we
Ah,
have built many major minor dams and completely stop the river from flowing naturally flowing, and
May I add one point? I missed that question. So I want to highlight one case we have filed at the Supreme Court of Nepal to make the mainstream of Karnali River that is still undammed. That is not, the mainstream of from Tibet to India border, Nepal-India border. It is still undammed. It is free flowing, and I myself and then other people, other activists have filed a case at the Supreme Court of Nepal to declare it as a sacred river and keep it free flowing. Other there are several dams in tributaries, but one main stream is still free flowing, and that is the Upper Kanali project is proposed there, and GMMR is the licensee. So we have filed that one. It is under consideration. So the issue of free flowing river, to keep the rivers in the natural flow, is a very challenging issue of the day, and maybe for the futures, if you consider the undamming, damming down the dams in United States and other parts of the world.
Yeah, de-damming has started. Yes.
Yeah. The decommissioning dams,
Yes,
decommissioning
decommissioning.
efforts are ongoing. We have, taken reference of that also. Why those dams are being decommissioned? So we have tried to refer those efforts and not to make mistakes or those were made in the past in the West countries. So this is
Wonderful.
the plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have to learn to leapfrog. Somehow we want to go through the same mistakes of the Western countries and then learn the way they learn. So I think it's a kind of a cycle which takes us to that exhaustion. So I mean, I'll just move on to the next question for closing also the session, because we are coming very close to the closure. There was a discussion on interlinking of rivers. I mean, in principle, philosophically, physically, rivers are interlinked. But now, even in our projects, we are talking about interlinking in a human constructed or engineered way. And that, I mean, how do they sit together? Or maybe we can skip this question for the paucity of time, or would you like to respond anything? Radhika, over to you.
Okay, just a quick quick glimpse of what we have discussed in the book when we speak about interlinking rivers. We've briefly gone through the history of where this idea of interlinking rivers also comes. And when we look at it, we go back to the colonial period. So we see that we have this colonial legacy in this project, which was first proposed by Sir Arthur Cotton, and then
Yes.
was later taken up by various other people, and the entire project has also been renamed multiple times. It was first the National Water Grid, then it was called the Garland Canal Project, and now in 2015 we have a special task force which was appointed to take this project ahead. And we also have the Ken Betwa interlinking river project, which has already started,
Yes.
and we have many debates going around it. But what we have tried to do in our book is try to understand this entire project from multiple lenses. First is to say that are we considering this impact of climate change in the cryosphere, which is going to have a lot of impact on the main stem region. And we see that there is a lack of consideration given to the cryosphere. And we are also not looking at the long gestation period of the project, because it's a huge project and it's going to span over multiple decades. So, and each decade it comes with its own sets of opportunities as well as problems. So we are failing to see how these issues are being addressed in the current structure or planning of the project. We are also not looking at the financial overruns, because the initial cost of the project could be something, but when it goes on over a period of time with escalation and inflation, the ultimate project cost changes a lot. And so we are also thinking about how we're looking at the economic dynamics of this project from a point of view of water management. To begin with, we have absence of water balance studies across different river basins. So when we say that there is one river basin which has surplus water, another river basin has less water, we fail to have any statistical study done to make these claims. And one very important example is that of Kosi River Basin in Bihar, where 1 month the Kosi River is flooded and floods Bihar. But the next month itself, we see that the groundwater tables in Bihar are completely depleted. So then how are we defining the idea of surplus basin? is also something that we need to really question and understand. And once again, going back to the point of how we are looking at state boundaries and water as a state subject, and how we are going to address this entire plan of considering water and rivers as a national subject, which is going against the existing administrative um, provisions. And also again to say that how we are failing to deal with the demand side, which is where we are not speaking about demand side solutions and demand side approaches, and only looking at the supply side.
Supply side. That's a typical paradox, huh? We
Yes,
are
yes,
living with that paradox in every city also.
yes,
I mean,
yes,
for example, nobody wants riverfront, but government wants to give riverfront, very simply put. I mean, I'm very blunt on this aspect, but this is how it is happening at this moment. We can't do much about it, but I believe, and you know it very well, that at W4W, we have been really saying that conversations are extremely crucial. We are trying our best to get these conversations on board. And that brings me to the last question also, as we are talking about how to take these conversations also, as well as the issue of Ganga, issue of transboundary, issue of pollution, to the government or to international community. I'm also pleased to share with you, we just concluded a 15 days workshop on Musi River project and Hyderabad waters. Just today, it completed an hour before. And this is a very, burning question amongst all professionals, citizen groups, and even government as well. I mean, it's a serious issue because I think this there has been for a long time a simplifying a very complex system, and also looking at river as a river or nature as a nature vis-a-vis nature. Nature as infrastructure than nature, and that fails the purpose of appreciating. And there's also has been always a sense of fear as a narrative vis-a-vis a sense of appreciation for water, which is extremely important. And the way the book presents is a sense of appreciation, and also a sense of, okay, we cannot unpack fully the complexity, but at least it is important to realize the complexity, acknowledge and appreciate the complexity. That has come out quite beautifully in a very simple way, not too complicated things. And as the book is quite easy to read, which is the beauty of the book. I mean, because unless and until the readability is there, legibility is the next step towards it, So first of all, people have to start talking about it, knowing about it. Knowing is the first step towards appreciating anything. Any last thoughts? Because we have touched the time towards closure. I would like to take those last thoughts and then call it off for the day with a vote of thanks. Chaitrali, कुछ और add करना चाहेंगी या कुछ अभी कुछ would like to add something? Please go ahead, and we can call it out. Please unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Radhika.
नहीं आ रही है.
So we would just like to thank you, Mansi, for holding this space so beautifully for us and for the book. And we also at this point would like to say that we miss Vijay sir and
Yes.
having him over here, but he has conveyed his regards, and hopefully there will be an opportunity once again to go deeper into these issues with him, where he brings in a lot of experience and knowledge from his point of view. So thank you so much, Mansi.
Certainly.
Thank you so much, Chiranjeevi ji, once again. And yes, that's it from us.
Okay, Chaitrali, would you like to add something before I call it off?
I just wanted to thank you all for inviting me to this platform, and it was a great learning experience working on this book. I hope you all will get the broad idea of heads and tails. And if you have any other questions, you can email us, Vijay sirs or Radhika or me. Thank
Yes,
you.
wonderful. I will do that. And these book reading sessions have been extremely interesting for me because it disciplines me to read at least one book a month. That's the least I can do to educate myself, if not more. I mean, I can't solve the problems of the river, but at least I can solve the problems of my head by learning about it and bringing peace not only within myself, but also among the people with whom I interact about these issues. I think that's extremely important, water conversations. And we do hope that Vijay sir gets well soon. If not the book, I know his specialization, so we can definitely get him on board either one of the Wednesdays. You know, Radhika, that we have been having some wonderful discussions on Wednesday. So with the announcement for the next Wednesday, which is on 11th of December, we are conducting IASC series, which is the Lina Rostrom's Commons series. And next Wednesday, we are discussing with experts from Sri Lanka, and they are going to talk about the huge network of rainwater harvesting across South Asia. But the speakers are from Sri Lanka, but they organize this network on rainwater harvesting. That's called SARNet. And we are looking forward to that session. And of course, Friday Waters and Monday Munching with Women for Water will continue. And also, I have a very interesting news to share with all our audience. Also, I see some people are also on the YouTube, that we are gearing up for bringing our this year's water festival at Mahakumbh as a Jal Akhada. Fingers crossed. We are very, very nervous, but we would like to take dig into going for this kind of opportunity because it comes rarely. And I hope we are able to take a dip, not only to cleanse our soul, but also to dip to say that, sorry, Ma Ganga, we have to do some more to clean you up and maybe take vow to not pollute it more through our actions. Thank you so much once again, Radhika Chaitrali, for being the authors as well as the speakers for today. And we call it off for today. Thank you so much, all of you, and thanks all the participants. We are now more than 325 sessions old with more than 600 speakers spoken on our platform. So we are looking forward. We are going strong. At least all December sessions are already finalized. So yes, we are there. Thank you so much, all of you. Please take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.